Morning, everyone.
Morning, Sonia.
Well, while we're waiting for people to join in, just wanted to welcome everyone here. We're thrilled to have you join us today. As many of you are probably already know, I'm Sonia and I'm the marketing manager here at Advantage. I'll be monitoring the chat throughout the session, so please don't be shy. Engage with us, drop your questions in there. We're going to make sure to take some time throughout the presentation to address them, and we'll also probably have some time at the end for some Q&A.
Absolutely.
Before we dive in, let me introduce our speakers. Many of you already know our first presenter if you've attended any of our previous webinars, or you may have worked with him directly one-on-one. Either way, to know him is to love him. So join me in welcoming Russell Smith, our VCIO. And then we also have a very special guest today, David Fulford, who is our lead technician on our app development team. He's our Microsoft Fabric guru, and we're excited to have him with us today. Together, they're going to guide us through how Microsoft Fabric can transform the way we manage, analyze, and leverage data across your organization. So the stage is yours, guys. Take it away.
Sonia, thank you. Um, Very happy to be here. And David, thank you again for joining us today. I'm very
Of
excited
course.
about this. We'll get started. I'm going to share my screen here. And again, like Sonia said, write down any questions in the chat. We will have time to get to them. Write them down so you don't forget, like I usually tend to. All right, everybody able to see my screen okay? So, what we want to get out of today is understand what the Microsoft Fabric Cloud is, which is a subset of Azure. And we're going to go a little bit under the hood today, but we really want to focus on a more practical demonstration, what you can do in this new cloud data environment using AI tools to help your organization run more efficiently, to gain insights into systems, components that you may not have right now. And what we're really going to see is that the cloud has unlocked the type of data and financial reporting that have only been available to big companies for a long time. Now it's become easy and cost effective enough that small and medium businesses and organizations can take advantage of these tools too, and really operate like a much larger enterprise. So David is, as you heard, on our app dev team. He's one of our devs, our programmers, and he's going to be showing us a lot of the demonstration day. I'm going to give a little bit of historical context first, sort of how we got here and how Fabric has changed how we work at Advantage. So there's a lot of focus right now. You've probably seen this term already, digital transformation, and it's being used as an umbrella term by our industry as a way to talk about the sort of processes, reporting data, abilities that are being unlocked with cloud tools and with AI tools. And what we see with a lot of technology is a democratization over time, as things that were very expensive and hard to do, only done by the top Fortune 100 companies. Over time, these things become unlocked, like I said, all the way down to small and medium organizations. And we're going to be looking at the Microsoft Azure Cloud, which really is one of those wonderful tools for unlocking enterprise abilities. So these are some of the digital transformation projects we do at Advantage, application development, systems integration. We're going to be looking at that stuff today with Fabric, but also it ties into our past webinars, Copilot, Copilot agents, all these cloud tools that help you and your staff work more efficiently or give you insights. I also want to take just a minute before we kind of dive into the rest of this is to what is how we work and how we handle software and dev projects like this. And that's what's called the agile software development cycle. And it's really focused on very quick timelines, 2-week iterations to do work, create value. We break down large tasks into small ones. And we've talked about this in our previous webinars. When a client comes to us and says, hey, I need AI, we do a little timeout, we back up, and we say, well, what are the specific things you're trying to accomplish? What are the goals you're trying to reach? What are the reports you're trying to generate? What are the workflows you're trying to optimize or make more efficient? And what we've done by doing that is we've taken the huge insurmountable task, my company needs AI. That's a big project. We've turned it into small, easy to do, digestible projects. We need to automate our invoicing. We need business intelligence reporting on occupancy rates. So now we've taken a big we need AI into a specific use case that is driven by your organization's priorities and goals. And in the agile development cycle, we're able to take that specific thing. Maybe it's 3 hours, maybe it's 8 hours. We work on that. We send it back to you. You review it, you approve the work, and you're using it. So rather than an old school approach where, hey, we need AI, and in a year we're starting to use AI, if we get specific, if we get targeted, you can start using AI in a matter of weeks. And that's some of the stuff we want to show today. What has really changed thanks to Fabric and this unified data cloud that Microsoft has set up is the environment is there for us to use. And David can tell you, we've been doing this type of work for decades. We've been doing financial and business intelligence reporting for our clients for decades, literally. The difference is, and I'm going to go back to a project that David and I worked on together for one of our clients about 6 years ago. And they have an ERP that we support, enterprise reporting platform. So that is where all their customers are. That is where their sales data is, all kinds of very core company info. Doing these kinds of reports, doing this kind of work 5 years ago was, well, we need infrastructure to run it on. And I got involved at that point because we needed to go out and buy a Dell server, and we needed to have SQL licensing, and we needed to have a database server and a web server and a report server. And then we needed to duplicate all of this infrastructure again for business continuity reasons. And so we could have a testing environment as well as a production environment. What that meant is before David could start his work, I and our network team, I think on that one, we spent about 120 hours getting this server infrastructure ordered, delivered from Dell, set up, deployed. So 120 hours, 2 months later, we're finally able to go to David and say, okay, now we can get to the client's real work. What we're going to see here today is David is going to generate some data for us, and in the next half hour, he's going to be working on that data. And that's the night and day difference that Fabric brings in. All of that time to get the environment prepared is shortened from weeks to days and tenth of the hours. The other term I want to throw out there as we look at this, because we're going to see this too, is ELT. And David, what's ELT?
It's the extract, load, transform process. We start by extracting data from various sources. So in this case, it could be external APIs, it could be your Excel, your CSV files, it could be flat files. It could be, another SQL database that you have sitting somewhere. If you have, have it sitting on-prem, it's wherever your data is coming from. From there, we go ahead and we load it into Fabric, and then we do whatever transformative steps we need on it in order to arrange it so that we can work with it.
Okay, excellent. So that's our kind of foundational stuff. We're going to move on, but we wanted to make sure we're going to be throwing this term around a lot. You're going to see it from other people in the industry too. So ELT. So very briefly, we're going to talk about the core components of Microsoft Fabric, and then I'm going to turn it over to David so we can actually see some of this good stuff. The first thing we're going to be talking about is One Lake, and that is Microsoft's data lake. You may have seen this term around in the industry. Snowflake is a big data lake, data warehouse vendor. And think about it this way. The term kind of this is where you aggregate your data. So as David said, Most organizations have multiple vendors and multiple data sources. You're going to have a CRM, you're going to have an ERP, you're going to have an accounting platform. And you could think of those as individual streams or rivers of data. But if you want to analyze them as a whole, you need to aggregate them together into one place. And that's where one lake or the data lake comes in. All those rivers have flown into the same lake. Now you can think about them as a whole, cohesive. So that really takes you, and what we're going to see today is that vendor, your CRM vendor, has their own reports, but if you want to compare that reporting with your accounting software or your production software, that's where the data lake comes in. Now we're able to analyze across data sets. We also have our data engineering. This is where the loading comes in and the transforming starts to happen. And how we process our data. We have our predictive analytics. So this is definitely where the transforming is coming in. We're going to see this today. We're going to be leveraging Copilot AI and other tools. Power BI is a great tool for this too. So we want to interpret that data. We want to visualize it. We want to have insights in real time, and we're able to see that. And then we also want to have actions and flows, and that's where some of the Power BI visualization comes in and data activators come in. So we can take what we've seen, we can generate alerts based on what we've seen, we can inform people on what we've seen. So these are not one of the things we're going to focus on the reports today. But remember, these aren't reports in a silo. They're not in isolation. They're reports that are actionable items as well. So all of that said, I've yacked a lot. I'm very happy to turn it over to David. And what we've done is I like having a little bit of concrete to go with the numbers and spreadsheets. So what we've done here is we're taking some commercial property management as an example. And David, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you want to kind of talk about what we did to generate a data set today and show us what that data looks like. I'm happy to turn it over.
All right, sure. I'm happy to go through this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let me know if for some reason anyone's unable to see it. All
Looking
right.
good.
All right, so I'm starting off here in Microsoft Fabric itself. I've gone ahead and I've created a workspace for our demo here today. And in this case, we have a few things in here. The big thing is for our demo, we're going to go ahead and use a hypothetical property management company. So I just went out to Copilot and asked it to give me some data, just generate some data for us to work with as far as, giving us properties, units, a payment history for these properties and some expenses on these properties. So this is all AI generated. If you're actually part of a property management company and the data looks weird, don't get too hung up on the actual data itself. This is for demo purposes. We're really just interested in looking at the trends here. All right, so I went ahead and I took this data and I went
And
ahead.
again, David's showing a spreadsheet, but this could be very common use case for a lot of our clients right now is we're pulling the data direct out of their third-party software.
Mhm.
In property management, that would be Yardi or Entrata. And that way, you're ensuring both the accuracy of your data. Nobody is having to re-enter it, so making a mistake. And the other thing you're doing is you're saving time. You're not paying anybody to manually transfer or re-enter that data.
All right, so what I've gone ahead and done is I've created a data warehouse within this workspace, and I've gone ahead and I've imported those tables here into the data warehouse. So you can see I've got my properties, I've got my units, and I've got my payments, and I've got my expenses. So these are now all residing within Fabric itself. And so now we're able to go ahead and start working with them.
And this is what, again, just a few years ago would have taken us a couple months and 100 hours plus to get to
Mhm.
this point
And
in
this took
legacy
probably
systems.
about 15 to 30 minutes. So all right, so from here, we're going to go ahead and start working with the data itself. I'm going to go over here to Power BI Desktop, and we are going to go
Power
ahead and
BI is
start.
Power Business Intelligence, right,
Mhm.
David?
Yes. And we're going to go ahead and start with a blank report. Always got to love doing it live. Sometimes seeing is believing. So I'm going to go ahead and get data from another source here. And I'm going to go to Microsoft Fabric. And I'm going to go ahead and pull data back from my Power BI semantic models. In this case, I've gone ahead and created a semantic model, which shows how those tables relate to each other, how things are connected, and define some relations between them. So I'm going to go ahead and find my demo property management model here, and we'll connect to that.
And all of this data is stored in the Microsoft Azure cloud in your tenant. One of the things that we kind of pride ourselves on at Advantage is we don't store client data ourselves. We want you to own your data, so we're taking advantage of that space that you have in Microsoft 365. Means you own your data, means it's secure.
Okay, so we've gone ahead and we've connected to our data source. We can see that it was able to pull back those tables here, and we can see our semantic model here and how all the information connects to each other.
And this is
Here's
definitely where I rely on David for this help. I know the spreadsheet, I don't know how these things interrelate. And that's one of the areas where we come in and you need those dev experts.
Here's where we're going to start showing off and relying on AI in order to gain insights and create reports and leverage all that into being able to quickly show and provide data. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our Copilot here. In order for this to be available, you will need to be on an actual paid Fabric SKU, but it is included at all levels. So if you are using Fabric, you have a paid Fabric SKU, this will be available to you. And I'm going to tell it to go ahead and suggest content for a new report page here.
I like that, David. We talked about that in the last two webinars when we were looking at Copilot agents. One of the nice things about AI is that it's often helpful to start with a suggestion. It means that you're not filtering your results in your head before you ask the question. And that can lead to insights, things that you hadn't thought about asking about. But the AI is able to well, this is interesting, David. It actually says property financial overview, and I don't remember you telling it that, right?
I didn't give it any information other than the four tables. It looked at it, it analyzed it, it figured out what type of data it was, and suggested what kind of reports would make sense based on what it was seeing. So in this case, it's suggesting four reports. It's suggesting a property financial overview. It's suggesting a unit occupancy analysis. It's suggesting payment collection trends. And it's suggesting an expense breakdown by unit.
Let's
So
take a look at one of those.
let's go ahead and create the property financial overview here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click create here, and it will go ahead and think about it.
And I've noticed, David, that sometimes things are very quick results, sometimes it may take a little longer. And that's really kind of the level of depth the AI has to go to interpret that data. If it's something that you can kind of glance at on the spreadsheet, you're going to get a result or back very quickly. If it actually has to interpret and understand the data, it's going to take a little bit longer. But as you saw, that's still, it was a few seconds.
Exactly. The more complex the question we ask it, the longer it's going to take to do. But in this case, it was a pretty simple report. So it went ahead and created a report for us here, where we can see that our properties, we can expect, assuming a maximum potential revenue of about 30 million. Our current expenses are about 16.6 million, which leaves us with a net income of about 13. And we can see a breakdown in our revenue by property here. It's given us some charts regarding our revenue, our expenses, and our income. And it's gone ahead and broken out our revenue, expenses, and income by type. Now we can further go ahead and even filter our results if we wanted to. So I want to see what portion of our properties are offices. Okay, so you can see that it highlighted which of my properties here are offices and kind of made the other ones a lighter color. And it updated our numbers here. So we can see that our offices are potentially providing about 10 million in revenue and about 4 million in net income. How
So the
about,
important thing to note here is it's not a static report. It's an
mhm.
interactive report. It's a filterable report and very easy to navigate.
So if we were to go take a look at our industrial properties, again, we can see it's accounting for like 2.8 million. Okay, so yeah, some interesting data here that we can take a look at. Let's see what else we have. Let's go ahead and create a unit occupancy analysis. Okay, so you can see I have 250 units. You can see them broken out by property, which some properties have more, some properties have less. In this case, it turns out that a little less than half of our properties, about 49.2%, are occupied, and a little over half are unoccupied. Probably not great. Want to get out there and start making sure our properties are rented out. We can also see our unit distribution by type here, where we can see the percentages of which ones are retail space, which ones are residential, one bedroom, two bedroom, three bedroom, which ones are office suites, which ones are studios. And again, if we wanted to, we can filter it down and get more information. So if I want to see specifically our office suites, I can see, okay, looks like this particular property is mostly offices.
And now we've
And
got the occupancy breakdown by that
mhm.
category or vertical as well.
And I can see we specifically have 36 units that are office suites.
Good.
Okay, let's go ahead and try payment collection trends. Okay, so I can see that we've taken in 6.4 million in payments. We can see how our payments are being collected over time, how they're being paid by month. We can see specifically how they're being paid, whether they're credit cards, cash, bank transfers, or checks. And we can see which ones are paid, which ones are late currently, and which ones are
Oh,
pending.
that's interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
So like what if we click on late there?
All right, let's find out. Okay, so we can
Oh,
see, for example, that it looks like late payments primarily tend to be less checks in this case, more credit cards and bank transfers. And so it looks like credit cards is probably the biggest percentage there at 2.84.
so this is the kind of thing where you can maybe start doing some insights. And again, this is a sample data set, but you can look at it and say, okay, if we're getting, people who pay through this method are more likely to pay late, then maybe that's something you build an incentive to get people to pay in more reliable methods. So this is some of the stuff you can start getting out of the insights. And go ahead, David.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this portion of creating reports up with an expense breakdown by unit. I want to see where we're having to spend our money.
Excellent.
Okay, so I can see we're spending about 710,000 and an average of about 531.86 per unit. Okay, so we can see that we have a breakdown by unit here as far as which ones have the highest expenses, which ones have the lowest expenses. We can see which ones have average expenses. We can see it broken out by type. We've got repairs, cleaning, pest control, and so forth. And we have our expense distribution by unit.
And all of these suggestions are basically just a question. And so this is as easy as typing that
Mhm.
question into Copilot. So maybe we could show that a little too.
Sure.
Uh,
What do you want me to ask about the data?
let's see. Could we ask which properties are consistently underperforming?
Sure. So I'm going to ask it which properties are consistently underperforming based upon historical data.
So we get a little checking underlying data. That's kind of letting us know it's going to take a few seconds more to puzzle this out for us.
Okay, so we can see that our consistently underperforming properties are property 41, 36, 4, 30, 18, 44, 10, and 14, and 13, with property 41 being our worst performer by far.
Okay, and
Okay,
that was just, very quick. Instead of going through the spreadsheet, we're able to just get the answers right away. And I assume, David, if we wanted to add a widget for this, that'd be fairly easy to do
yeah, we
too.
could just ask it to add a widget here. Um, let's
And
go
we
ahead
don't
and,
need to add it to our dashboard. That's
yeah,
fine. Just want to
okay, yeah.
see, what it looks like actually, if you don't
Mhm.
mind. But
So I'll
again,
say
David's
show this
just
data
using
in a
plain
widget.
commands. Uh, there you
Okay,
go.
so we can see our lowest net income by property.
And then, David, I assume, we've been asking it to sort of generate reports on the fly for us. I assume
Mhm.
if we wanted to save a report, or publish it for colleagues to use, that's something that can be done too as well, right?
Absolutely. So what we can do is, yeah, save the report if you want to continue to work with it. There's also a publish option here, which allows us to go ahead and
Right.
I'll just save it here real quick. You can see that we can publish it to Power BI. In this case, I'll go ahead and find my demo workspace. And if I were to select that, it would go ahead and push it out here to Fabric, where you can see in our demo workspace. I do have a couple of reports that I've gone ahead and pushed out here
Oh,
already. And so if
excellent.
I wanted to, I could go ahead and share those reports with other people. It is worth noting that in order to share reports, you will need a Power BI Pro license. Those go for about $10 per user per month.
That's correct. Yep. Yep.
Mhm. They will need those in order to be able to view other people's reports.
And so I think one of the takeaways here is that what we saw David doing is that with Copilot AI, you can interact in real time. And there are a lot of times where you can say, hey, generate this report on the fly. I have a question about a specific thing from my data. And the Copilot AI is wonderful for that. But we're a process-driven organization at Advantage, and our processes include specific reports. So a lot of what we do is that's where David and Eric and the rest of the app dev team come in. We'll work with key stakeholders like our accounting department, like Keith, our president, and that way we'll build specific, highly configured, customized reports that are then the same regardless of who the viewer is and come out at a specific cadence, or they're updated in real time. So you have both abilities here. You have this ability to play with the data as an end user, but you also have the ability for curated specific content that can be published to your team that everybody's operating on the same page. Let's ask a few more questions, David. I like that one.
Sure, sounds good. What do you want to know?
Yeah, let's see. Are there anomalies or spikes in operating expenses that the AI can flag for us?
Yep. Okay,
I
I
like
see what
David
it
how
has to
you're
say.
you're putting it. You're asking a question. You're using the punctuation too. I confess that I found myself saying to Copilot the other day, "Please do this." I'm not saying thank you yet, but I am saying please.
Honestly, I have noticed that even if your punctuation is horrible, your spelling is horrible, AI
It'll
actually tends to
correct
be
it.
pretty good at figuring out what you're trying to
Yes.
tell it.
Yes.
But in this case, yes.
And it
Okay, so
doesn't
we can
mind the
see there are
please.
significant spikes in operating expenses for certain properties and units. Property 42, property 29, and property 37 have the highest total expenses, each exceeding 590,000, which is notably higher than most other properties. At the unit level, we want to take a look at Unit 38, Unit 41, and Unit 66, which each have expenses above 5,200. So yeah, we may want to look at those
Great actionable
outliers and
information. right? And again, this can be created as a widget. This can be built into a report. So every time you hop on the report, it's going to give you the current status, whatever properties those might be. The other thing is these can be turned into actions and flows and actionable items. So for instance, when this is generated, it can be emailed to the property managers or community managers at those locations. Very cool. Um,
What
let's
else would you like
see.
to know?
Oh, let's see. How do maintenance and utility costs compare across similar properties? And while David's typing this in, one of the things that I want to point out here is we may see a little bit of wonky answers because of the simulated data set. There is a old truism in our field that quality in, quality out. The quality of the answers that you will get from AI and Power BI is directly impacted by the quality of the data that you're feeding into the systems. So the more accurate data you have, the more data you have, the more sophisticated answers and insights the platform is going to be able to give you. That's why it's very helpful, again, to do this API, this application programming interface. It's a cloud connector for that program like Yardi or Sage or Intuit to be able to exchange data directly with our system. If we're getting all of that real-time occupancy data and repair data in, you're going to get very good answers on this side.
Okay, so we got our answer back, and it's telling us that based on the available data, maintenance and utility costs are varying significantly across properties, with some properties incurring much higher expenses in one category than the other. But there is no consistent pattern indicating that cost drivers are probably going to be property specific rather than uniform across similar properties. So it looks like the maintenance and utilities are probably the ones to take a look at, but there is no real trend as far
And
as looking
I,
across
well,
which
and this
properties.
is one of those cases where with actual data being fed into the system from Yardi, then we
Mhm.
can start correlating. Well, do we have correlations between the age of the property and the type of investment we're making?
Certainly.
Then we can make an insight, hey, I'm planning on purchasing a new property. How old is it? Now maybe I can do some predictions, or where is it? There are other factors that go in, but now maybe I can do some predictions on, hey, I know this property is X years old. I'm going to be spending roughly X percentage on this maintenance, or roofing or whatever that is. So again, you're able, with better data, you're starting able to do some prediction and planning there and look out for things. Um, let's do another one. How about
Sure.
which leases are expiring soon and what's their financial contribution? And I'm purposely saying soon here, and we're going to see why in a second. And we're doing a little bit of a deeper check. It's not something that's immediately visible to the AI. It's got to actually drill down through the data here. You'll also see some fluctuations kind of depending on usage and what's happening on Microsoft's cloud side as well. So this
Mhm.
can be normal to wait a minute. While that's generating, let's talk about cost a little bit. So, as I said, historically, this would be tens of thousands of dollars in multiple servers and all that stuff. Now it's just a pull down in the Fabric menu. And with a reserved instance, basically a year or 3-year commitment, prices start at about $170 a month. And they're gated by what's called compute units, how many calculations the system has to do for you. If you're only pulling data once a week, and loading it in, so you're pulling it out of Entrada or Yardi once a week, loading that data and processing it, you're not going to use a lot of compute resources. Microsoft also gives you a 60-day trial period so you can build a baseline on what your usage is going to be, and you can adjust some of those parameters. So the more you're pulling the data, the more you're processing or analyzing that data, generating reports, the more of these compute units you're gonna use. But our engineers will sit down and do some testing, figure that out, set it to a level. If you need real-time reporting for hundreds of people, you're going to use more. But most of our clients, we haven't seen much more usage than a couple $100, a few $100 a month. All
Now,
right,
there is
Dave,
one
looks like we
thing
got some answers back. And yes,
there
please.
is one thing I would like to point out with regards to what you just said, and that is specifically with regards to the trial. What we're doing here with Copilot and being able to play with AI and ask it questions, that is only available under a paid SKU. You can't do that particular thing with the trial. You have to
Okay.
actually go ahead
But we
and
would still be
pay
able
for
to
a
do some
fabric capacity.
predictions on usage.
Mhm.
Yes. Perfect. Thank
All
you,
right.
Dave.
So anyway, the answer we got back, we asked a very vague question. We said, what is expiring soon? And so it's asking if we can clarify what we mean by soon. So it's suggesting 30, 60, and 90 days.
And again, that was intentional on my part. This is one of the things I like about AI. I'm not a dev, right? I wrote a website in HTML, but that's it. So it's a very good help for me to say, hey, Russell, you need to be more specific here. So let's say 90 days, David, and it actually
Okay.
gives us little suggestion buttons. Don't even need to type it in.
Oh, based on the available data, it appears there are no leases ending in the next 90 days from today. So, okay. It looks like the vast majority here are ending in January, so at the end of January.
Okay. So let's do 180 days. So
Okay.
let's see what that looks like.
And I'm going to go ahead and even do it this way where I'm going to force it to kind of infer from context. So I'm just going to say, how about 180 days?
One of the things I like to hear is, we've talked about where you can bring data in and how to bring it in. Microsoft is the 800-pound gorilla, right? So if basically, if you can think of a piece of software you use, go to Google, type in the software and type in API, Apple, Papa, India, and you're going to find a website about it. And if you see that, we can integrate it with Microsoft, at least 99% of the time.
Okay, so it says that several leases are set to expire within 180 days, representing a wide range of monthly rents. And the upcoming turnover could impact occupancy rates and rental income in the near term. And again, it gave us kind of the same chart with the sum of our monthly rent by lease end.
And David and I looked at this data a little bit the other day. This is the kind of thing, again, where we can call out or have it generate parameters on, David, ask it which property has the most leases ending, for instance, in the next 180 days. So again, we can drill down, we can create actionable items, we can predict it, hey, this property has multiple leases ending. We need to hit this hard. We need to advertise this location. We need to offer incentives. We need to take action now because we know this is happening in 6 months. And again, these can be issued reports, emailed, sent to people, generated as needed. Right. So
All
there
right,
we
so it looks
go.
like property 46 has 4 units that are all having leases ending within the next 180 days. So yeah, property 46 probably requires most of our attention here in terms of making sure those get rented back out.
Yep, exactly. So hopefully this has been really helpful and you kind of saw what can be done in an hour of work on the platform. So I want you to think about that a second while I bring up my slide. And David, we may get back to a little bit of sharing with you during questions, unless there's anything
Sure.
else you wanted to throw out at the moment. Okay. All right. So looking at Fabric for a second, we have, what it is this integrated data platform is a way to consolidate your data. It's vendor agnostic, so you're not dependent on what that platform can give you reporting wise. And probably good worth mentioning that we usually actually recommend if your software can give you the report you want, it's usually faster and easier to use that software, right? There's no time to build it out. You may be able to get it right away. And we've done that. We've had that discussion with some of our clients. Where Fabric comes in is that company can't give you the reports you want or need. They're not customized in the way you want. And Fabric lets us, as you saw from what David was showing in the last 30 minutes, you can customize things very highly to exactly the data you want to see and how you want to see it. And so that's where Fabric can come in.
I
Fabric
would
also,
also add, if I
Mhm.
could, that
Yeah,
also if you have data coming from different sources
yes.
is going to be a big one.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing is rather than viewing multiple reports in isolation, here's the report from my Sage accounting platform, here's the report from my Entrada property management. Let's aggregate that data. And then we can ask new questions, we can get new insights, and really sky's the limit here. That data, as David said, can be brought in any ways. It can be spreadsheets that are imported, CSVs, tables, but we like using data direct from that vendor as much as we can these days. And that's one of the areas that our team comes in on. And empowers growth, right? So it's a scalable solution. The investment to get in it is not high. And if we're following Agile, we're building out this environment as you need these things. And that's sort of where go to the next slide here. That's where our approach kind of takes things. So if you're interested in this as our next step, and we'll get to questions here in a minute, but we really want you to look at, be specific, be targeted. This was the MIT study that came out last month that I've mentioned in our last webinar. The companies that are successful, that have return on investment when it comes to AI adoption, are the ones that were specific and concrete with their needs and objectives. And the biggest opportunity is this type of data. It is not the generative AI right now that, will generate a picture for you. The biggest returns on investment that we're seeing and that MIT saw in their study is automation, is back office processes, is business intelligence and operations reporting. So this is the low-hanging fruit in AI right now, and this is where your organization can really start seeing a return on value. So if you're interested in this, your homework is to be specific, identify those areas for improvement, identify, David, one time I think I heard our colleague Eric saying, like, if you're spending a day to do the same like spreadsheet data every month, that's an opportunity for automation.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about what could happen if instead of taking that day every month, 12 days a year, you're sitting there and we've done a little bit of work for you. We've prepared those reports and it's as easy as you saw from David. It's going in and clicking that report or asking a simple Copilot question to see that data. And we've turned that day into 15 minutes. That's a powerful thing, and that really frees up your time, frees you up for more important work. So identify those things. If you're Advantage client, contact your CSM, Phil, Deanna, and Antoine. And if you're not, reach out to us at sales. We're happy to start the conversation, and it's going to be focused on what are you trying to achieve, not we need AI. So that said, I think we're ready to open up for questions. I know we got a lot of people and we got some time. So who's got a question?
Don't see anything in the chat. There was nothing in the Q&A, so I'm gonna assume that you and David did an amazing job and answered everyone's questions along the way.
Yeah. So we'll give people another minute if there's anything. But yeah, I think the big takeaways are this is not a big deal to get rolling. This is, we'll start a conversation and you can be doing stuff within a month on this platform and working with your data that fast. It's easy to do and it's a very powerful system and it's flexible and it will grow with you. See some familiar names. Good to see you, folks. All right. Well, folks, thank you very much. I think we do have our next webinar. That is going to be, let me share this screen a second. This is how to contact us. Our 866 number sales. Our next webinar, so I'll be sending out a communication in the next couple days. That is going to be on SharePoint beyond document management. So we all use SharePoint to manage documents. There's a lot of other really cool things you can do from an intranet perspective and management, calendars, lists, things like that. So we're going to show you some of those additional goodies you get in SharePoint. That's an environment that most of you are probably already paying from. So there's no additional cost for hosting. Microsoft's including it with your emails. So what else can you do with that there? We want to show you that. That is going to be on December
10th at
lost my
11.
calendar. Thank you, Sonia.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's going to
And we
be on
did get a
December.
question real quick.
Good.
I probably could answer this
Sure.
surprisingly, but I'll let you know. Is Copilot part of Fabric?
So
Go ahead, David. Thank you.
So Copilot is included as part of the Fabric SKU. So as long as you're actually paying for that Fabric capacity, then it's included as part of it, yes.
Excellent.
And that is on any SKU, even the smallest. So even an F2, which is the cheapest, would include Copilot.
Yep. Good question. Any others?
I think that was it for now, but you guys have all of our information. You can reach out to Russell, myself, David, if you do have any questions that come up after you have some time to think about everything that was presented here today. So please feel free to reach
and we
out.
can help you build it. That's where we come in, is to build those specific reports, ensure the data is being read and interpreted correctly and transformed correctly. That's what we're here for. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks,
See you
everyone.
next month.